Hey, welcome back to Dad Space. It's episode 31. And today, I'll talk to you about finding your way back to your element when you are out of it. Have you ever been out of your element? Have you ever been somewhere and you're like, I think I'm not supposed to be here right now? Well, I have. I got a story I want to tell you about. A flight that I took from Vancouver, Canada to Toronto, Canada. And some stuff had happened and I was completely out of my element. Completely. And it showed. Even though I was trying to be as cool as possible. You're on Dad Space. How to find your way back to your element when you're definitely out of it. Thanks for listening. Here we go, right? So I flew out for work from Toronto to Vancouver for a day and flew back. And the person I was meeting out there that also worked in the same company flew a lot, and he offered me his tickets to go first class.
Air Canada Express, flight 85.
They call up now that it's time for boarding. And I'm like, I have his tickets in my hand. He has mine. He's going to be sitting in the back of the plane. So I head up to the ticket gate with his tickets, and we had made arrangements prior to boarding. And now I'm holding in my hand first class tickets. I've never, ever been spoiled like this in my life. And if you've done this before, then you're probably going to laugh at this, but have you ever been put in a situation where you know that you shouldn't be there and someone else should be in your spot? I'm sitting in first class, like in the second row, and it's just me and a gentleman in a suit sits beside me, and you have the people getting on the airplane, and I'm sitting in this beautiful seat, and I have window seat, so I'm right by the window, and I can see the guys outside, and they're loading in the luggage, and they're doing the last minute prep. So I'm looking out the window, and then I've been looking out the window for a little while, and kind of watching, and I look over, I catch that he's the gentleman beside me, the businessman is kind of looking at me. So I look over at him, I'm just like, hey, hi. He's all dressed up nice and fancy, I'm just wearing casual clothes. And he looked at me and said, this is your first time in first class, isn't it? And I said, yeah, I am completely out of my element here. I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah, it shows, right? And he laughed, and he thought it was quite funny to see me all with like the eyes of a 10-year-old watching the guys out on the tarmac working on the plane. And in that moment, I just went, oh, wow, I am so out of my element here. And for the entire flight, I had no idea what protocol was. Nobody explained to me meals, snacks. The flight attendants would come by with stuff, and I just, whatever the guy beside me ordered, I ordered what he ordered. I had no idea. Everything was covered, so I had no idea what to do. And so it came time for our food to come to our table, to our seat, and I don't know where my table is. I have no idea how these seats work. I have no idea where my hidden table is hiding. And so I wait. And thankfully he initiated by reaching to his right and pulling out the table and setting it up in front of himself to prepare for the meal that was coming. And that was my cue to follow his lead. The feeling of being somewhere where you did not expect to be. When my coworker offered me his first class seat, and then he took mine at the back of the airplane, I felt like a star. I felt like, wow, I'll probably never, and I haven't since, had the opportunity to fly first class. And I just felt so different. And that made me kind of think, okay, that's what it feels like to be out of my element. What is the opposite of that? What does it feel like to be in my element? And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about with you here today. So I got a few points I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to have this little sound is going to pop up. Here's the sound. So when every time you hear that, I'm going to go to my next point. But let's talk about how we get out of when we're out of our element, how do we get back into our element? Okay, Dad, so here we go. Are you ready? So, number 1, passion reveals energy. You want to get back into your element, your passion will reveal the energy. Okay, so if you're doing something that you love, by the end of the day, you may be completely physically exhausted, tired, but just inside, spiritually, emotionally energized. Your body may be weak and tired, but there's just something in you that's like, this was a good day. And I can't say it often enough. If you're passionate about what you're doing, it really can be trying, but it doesn't feel like work with no end in sight. Every second that you put into a project that you're passionate about leads to pleasure. So if you want to get back into your element, number 1, passion reveals energy. Okay, so our second point, number 2, if you want to get back into your element, realize that mindfulness is the key to everything. Mindfulness doesn't remove the ups and downs of our life as a dad, as a parent, as a spouse, as a community member, but it changes how experiences influence and how you as a dad, as a man, can influence the experience itself. It changes your relationship with all those around you. My main thought for this is just improving mindfulness is reflecting on the good and on the bad, basically on everything that you experience. And I'm a huge fan of taking responsibility for your life and not simply letting things happen to you, but to be in charge of everything that happens and constantly reflecting on how you can improve for the better. The main benefits of mindfulness is the reduction of stress, boosting your immune system, and being able to deal with the negative emotions, improve attention and concentration. So many things come into place when you put mindfulness at the top of the list. That's number 2. Okay, so number 3, the third way that you can get back into your element. Number 3, ready? The third way is to understand the meaning of happiness. On one side, there's this general well-being and satisfaction with your overall situation. For me, this includes being grateful for my health, for my family, my situation in life. And on the other hand, there's this temporary happiness, which I would call joy. This kind of feeling is the one that, when I hear my favorite song or my favorite show comes on or my wife walks into the room, that's joy for me. So I was looking at a recent study and it says research suggests that 40% of what affects your actual levels of happiness is what you choose to do and how you choose to think and feel. In other words, our own behavior. So in general senses then, my thought here is that your own behavior will define how you feel in life. So number 4, ready? Here's the sound. Number 4, the fourth way that you can get back into your element when you feel like you're out of your element, like I did on that airplane, on that flight. The next way to get number 4, the way to get back into your element is to realize and recognize the myth of barriers. Sometimes if you don't see barriers, they're actually not really there. How often do you limit yourself in how you think about yourself, how you think about what you are as a parent, as a dad, as a father, as a husband, as a spouse, partner? I know that I still do it often, but my actual goal is to reduce this behavior to a minimum and live my life to the fullest. Way too often, we seem to set ourselves these limitations that kind of sit over our heads and restrict ourselves from living amazing, great, fulfilled lives. We really need to just stop doing that as dads. Let's get clear about our potential in life and make use of every second and every interaction that we have with our kids. I mentioned before, my wife and I are empty nesters and my children aren't under my roof anymore. And that experience and that their availability to be in my life every day is gone. And it's this odd feeling as a dad, something for you to think about. If you're a new dad or it's coming close for you, cherish these moments you have and recognize the myth of barriers in your life. So the next point I want to make about getting back into your element, and this really helped me, and it's the whole idea behind Dad Space, the podcast, our online community on Facebook, doing life with other men and encouraging each other, is if you want to get back into your element, if you feel displaced, if you feel like you don't have your spot, this is our next point right here. You ready? Find your tribe. Find your tribe. Find those people that fill you up and fill your tank and get you back out into life. A tribe is basically just a group of people who share the same interests and passions that you do. These are also been called mastermind groups. There's a bunch of different terms for these. It's just a group of people who share similar goals and passions and support each other through regular updates and doing life together. Tribes that work together can achieve more than any single individual acting alone, because by being in a tribe, it stimulates each other's creativity and our combined sense of purpose. And as a dad, especially when you're a new dad, there's a lot of time when you feel quite alone and you're learning everything for the first time. And if you can plug into a group of dads that have your back and offer you support and encouragement, that is something I think we're missing as men, is the ability to speak into somebody's life and give them support and seek it when we need it. I think, and that's exactly why Dad Space exists. You've probably already heard that you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. That's a pretty common saying that I've heard used many times. And I guess there's a lot of truth behind that in fact, that those whom you exchange your thoughts and your minds with are super important in your life. You will have a hard time being super efficient and succeeding if you're not surrounded by people who are also exceeding and succeeding. A group of high achievers can really help lift your game and help you raise your expectations for yourself. So who's your tribe? Have you found them yet? I hope through Dad Space you do. That's why we're doing this. So the next thing I just wanted to talk about as well, when we talk about getting back to the spot where you need to be, where you feel like you are in your element, is this next point. Here it is. You ready? Live your own life. Live your own life. I was reading a book recently, and in the book, a person was sharing how somebody who was close to leaving this life and their life was coming to an end, the one thought that they were wrestling with was, and the way they expressed, was that they wished that they had the courage to have lived a true life, and a life that was true to themselves, not the life that others expected them to live. It's powerful. Living our lives with the terms and the rules of others and restricting ourselves is probably the most common mistake that we make as men, as dads. We only have one shot at being a dad. We only have our kids for a certain period of time. On average, I was reading it, we have roughly 30,000 days on this planet. Shouldn't it be our ultimate goal to make each and every one of these 30,000 days count and live those 30,000 days to the fullest? It's something that I'm challenging myself with right now, and it's easier said, obviously, than it is to do, but still, I think as dads, let's try to make every minute of our days count every interaction with our children, with our spouse, with our partners, with our community, with other men here in Dad Space. Let's make these days count. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things that you didn't do than the ones that you did do, and even the ones that you did do and failed at doing. Live your own life. So those are some of the things that I'm wrestling with. And again, mentally going back to the airport and hearing them do the boarding call again and standing up and going to that first class seat at the front of the plane and really feeling inadequate, really feeling out of place. And it showed as I gawked out the window at the people working down below and getting the plane ready for flight. When you feel like you're out of your element, whatever that is, maybe you're a new dad and you don't know what to do. Maybe you're a new parent, or you're a teenage parent. You're a parent and you have teenage kids, or you're an empty nester like me. To find your way back to finding your element and getting back into your element, finding your own element won't guarantee that you will spend the rest of your life in a constant, unbroken state of pleasure and delight, but it will give you a deeper sense of who you really are and of the life that you could possibly be living. And I just want to challenge you as a dad, wherever you are on that scale of being a dad, to get back into your element when you feel like you're out of place, and find a way to take some of the thoughts that we shared together in this episode and apply them to your day. Maybe don't do them all at once. Maybe come back to this episode a few times. But attack one of these things and try to implement them right away, even today. And let's see if we can make your Dad Space experience, your family's experience better by getting back into our element when we feel like we're not there. Thanks for listening to Dad Space. Again, dadspace.ca is where you can find everything. I would love to have a chat with you, conversation with you. We have our Dad Space community, and there's links on dadspace.ca if you're interested. It's a private group. Only listeners and past guests are there in our Dad Space private group, and it's open to you. You've listened this far in the episode. Please come over and let us know that you listened to this episode 31. Let me know, and we'll let you into the Dad Space group. It's a great place for guys to be there together and have each other's back. And that's exactly what this was all about, this episode, but it's exactly what Dad Space is all about. So dadspace.ca, I'll see you over there. Looking forward to our next one. Thanks for listening. Cheers. Thanks for listening to Dad Space today. Go check us out on all of our social media, YouTube, all that great stuff. You can find us as Dad Space Podcast. Real simple. Dad Space Podcast, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube. Email us, dadspacepodcast@gmail.com. We're always looking for great guests to come on the podcast. If you have any feedback for us, let us know here at Dad Space. Looking forward to connecting with you on the next episode, right here of Dad Space. Follow us on your podcast app for more. Cheers. To you, Dad.